And welcome into another edition of the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report. And it's been a long time. Coach, I feel like we were disconnected here.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for coming back. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you.
And you've been traveling, winning games, dropped a couple, had a holiday in there. So let's kind of pick it up where we left off. I think we were before the Manhattan game, if I'm not mistaken. Let's kind of go back to the Manhattan game for just a second, kind of recap that, go through the games, through the trip to Bimini, and see where we are right now.
Yeah, certainly the Manhattan game, was a good one for UMBC. I thought, our guys, followed our game plan, to a T. I was really worried about that game, going in. They really pressure you with their defense. They have a zone defense that they play that's a little bit unorthodox and really has been really good for them over the years and will be for them this year as well. And, our guys did an excellent job in that game. Guards, big guys of just sharing the basketball, playing on balance. And, we were able to come away with a really good win for us early in the season. And so I was proud of the way the guys played and competed. And, the second game here of the season in the event center. And that led us into, the Bahamas trip, which was a blast.
So talk a little bit about that, because not only did you win the tournament, 2-1 on the tournament, but you also had an opportunity, and the players had an opportunity to enjoy the weather and all the sights that were there to see.
Yeah, no question. I mean, what a beautiful place, Bimini is. And the folks there, the people at the hotel, not only at the hotel, but in the town are just so welcoming and nice, and our guys really did have a great cultural experience, and that's why you do these trips. Certainly you do it for the games and the competition and seeing some teams from places that you wouldn't typically play, and that certainly was great for us. Starting out with Air Force, to be put in that situation where we're playing a double overtime game with a young team, and finding a way to kind of grit it out and come out with a victory was a good way to start the tournament. And then, following up the next night against a solid High Point team who's gone on and won some games since the Bahamas, to face, a coach in Tubby Smith who's, one national champion.
Absolutely.
Little known fact, he told me he was the coach of UMBC for 5 days.
Is that really right? Okay.
He was.
Wow, I'll have to find out that story.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was actually an assistant at South Carolina at the time. Obviously, he grew up right around the corner here. So, special coach, special man, and great family. He's got his son working for him there at High Point. And that was one of our better games. Our defense was pretty strong. Offensively, we were able to play pretty well that night. We shot it decent, and I was pleased with that effort. Then we had a day in between High Point, so we were 2-0, had a day in between High Point and when we played South Dakota, and we took the players and the families on an excursion. We went out on a boat, snorkeling excursion, and did 3 different stops. Went to a reef and snorkeled around and saw some amazing things, and then went out and we actually swam with reef sharks. Which was, frightening and exhilarating, all in the same.
All in the same thing.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. And then we went and swam through this kind of abandoned, shipwreck, that had been there for the better part of 60 plus years. And, it was capsized during a hurricane, and it's been there ever since. And it's a landmark now that people enjoy. And KJ actually got up on top and jumped off. So they were jumping off the boat, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but it was a lot of fun.
And then the game against South Dakota, and that was a tough game. I think 58-52 was the final.
Yeah.
That broke a 4-game winning streak.
That did.
And then you guys come back home to what was a great basketball game against American University. And I want to talk about that a little bit. We'll pick it up with about 16 and a half minutes left in the game. It was a tight game all the way through, but you guys kind of distanced yourselves and had a 10-point lead. It was 40-30. So take us down the stretch. What happened for the rest of that game?
Yeah, I think the long and short of it is that American answered, and that's what really good teams do. We're not in a situation right now. We have a very small margin for winning and losing, and for us in that particular moment, they made some really good plays. Max Curran dunks the ball down here, gets the and one, and actually didn't convert on the free throw, and they came right back down And we switched the screen like we wanted to switch it, and it ended up being a blocking call, which was the right call at the time. And the kid who got dunked on down here got an and one down there, and so that gave them life. And we made a turnover, which obviously was not what we needed at the time. The execution wasn't quite where it needed to be, and then they closed the gap even further. And I think one of the key things in that particular game was that their experience at guard. I mean, the kid Zero is an excellent player.
Yeah, Nelson.
Nelson, preseason player of the year in their conference, and he had a not a typical first half, for them, which was why we were able to get a little bit of a lead there in the first half and got off to a good start in the second half. And he really began to play, and he began to sniff out how we were playing him. And, to their credit, they made some threes, and that was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
Had we guarded the three-point line better than we did, at the end there, we would have had a chance to win. But, you live and learn, and those are the kind of games that you want to be in. We've won a double overtime game, and now, we've lost a really close one there at the buzzer, basically. And that's college basketball.
Take us through the last 15 or 20 seconds of the game specifically. They had a 2-point lead. You guys got the rebound. You didn't call a timeout.
Yep.
And Max goes down and scores there.
Yep.
So take us through that. And then on the defensive end, they didn't call a timeout either.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of coaches will lean towards that.
Right.
I mean, you prepare and practice for situations like that. And a lot of times if you're calling a timeout, you can kind of defensively strategize a little bit better. You're giving the opposing coach an advantage there, one would think, because you're 5 against 4. You got to take it out of bounds. There's a guy out of bounds who can't score, right? So you're 5 against 4 getting it in. And so sometimes coaches don't want to risk that. And, we had, obviously that was a transition play for us. We put the ball in the basket and we get back on defense. I'm encouraging Arkell to come over and double because I felt like Zero would get we were tied at that point. I felt like, Zero would probably get to the basket if we didn't. He had been doing it, throughout the game. Arkell comes over and the kid makes an unbelievable pass. You go back and look at it.
Beautiful.
I mean, it's like he had eyes in the back of his head. He flipped it all the way across the court in a full sprint. And credit, the kid from American, Sam, he ends up, stepping right into a 3, and we didn't get there quite quick enough,
right.
To really put some pressure on him to make him miss. And that's the breaks of the game.
73-69 was the final. A quick thought here. You're going to Northern Kentucky to play the Norse. Great game back here last year, 76-75. They can shoot the 3. They can penetrate. They go to the free throw line. They're a very difficult team to defend. Yeah,
no question. I mean, they have one of the best big guys at the mid-major level in all of college basketball. Really good player in McDonald. We struggled with him here last year. We guarded him just well enough in order to win the game. He's gotten off to a fiery start. He's averaging 19 plus a game. He's obviously not the only player that they have, but everything kind of goes through him. So we're really going to have to deal with that. We talked a lot about, prior to the American game, we had 2 games in a row where they had an excellent big guy. Gasparini was a great player here too, and he made some key baskets for American in our gym to help them get back in the game. And, we're going to have to do a really good job on the road. They're going to be excited, looking for revenge, against us. And they had a shot to actually win the game against us here in the RAC.
And they're 6-1, so they only have the 1 defeat against Central Florida. All right, so UMBC is 4-3 on the season as we speak, as they go to Northern Kentucky. We'll take a timeout here. When we come back, Coach and I will actually be with another head coach at UMBC. The soccer man, Pete Caringi, will join us when we return.
Respect is hard work. Respect is dedication.
Respect is earned on the court or on the field.
Respect doesn't judge based on sexual orientation or gender identity.
Respect is being the first conference to partner with the You Can Play project.
And the first conference in the LGBT Sports Safe Founders Club.
Respect coaches, players, and the game.
Respect similarities.
Respect differences.
Spread respect.
Spread respect.
Spread respect.
Back at you from the UMBC Event Center. It is the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report, but segment 2, we're joined by a very special guest, head soccer coach at UMBC, men's soccer, Pete Caringi, joining us, just finishing up his 28th season at UMBC. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it, yes. And it was a great year, but it's been a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah, 28 years. And Coach, when you come across a guy like Pete, who's been at a place for 28 years, this is your third year here. What do you think about that longevity?
Well, it's special. I mean, UMBC is obviously lucky to have, a coach like Coach Caringi here, and to have him here for so long. This is home for him, right?
Yeah.
It's a special place, but it's special because of people like him.
Right. Let's talk about this past season. This was a great run to the America East Conference Championship game, somewhat unexpected, a lot of injuries for your club during the year. What were your expectations coming into the season?
Well, I had high expectations coming in, but at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of injuries. Key players, guys who you really depend on. One of your better players, John Bell, injures himself in the second scrimmage. You think it's going to be a really long year. But I was really amazed at how well we came through it all. And at the end, we were playing our best soccer, which you always hope. In any sport, you want to be playing your best soccer at the end of the year, or your best sport, your best ball. And for us, it was really, it was just a great run. It just physically and mentally we're tired because it was 5 games all on the road. And in the America East, it's not a close proximity to the games.
Right, you got to travel.
So the travel, I think, really took its toll at the last game.
Mm-hmm. So was it disappointing for you to fall in the championship game? I'm sure it is right that moment, but...
I think very disappointing, especially the way we lost. We were, we went out and played against a win, against a really good UNH team, and got scored on right away. And it's like the worst thing could have happened. Gave up 2 quick goals that we never would have given up earlier in the year or during the season. And it just, from that point on, it just snowballed. So I think we were all really disappointed with the result. But I think, as I told the players, once we got home and took a couple days, got away from it, it was a very satisfying season that we got to the finals and lost to a really good team, a team that was nationally ranked all year, and overcame a lot of adversity during the season with injuries. And when I look back on it, you win 10 games in a league that's really, really good. And get to the finals, it's not a bad year.
Yeah.
It's a good group returning, so a lot to look forward to.
Ryan, I want you to take over actually for kind of a second here and just talk a little bit about like when you come to a university and you got a guy here that's been here for 28 years and all the coaches from all the different sports. Like how do you interact? Like do you talk about coaching philosophies? How do you guys do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the key things. Whenever you have someone and you're entering a new situation, a new university, there's a way that things are done. And when you have somebody that's been here as long as Coach has, he's seen the changes, he's seen the good, the bad, he knows it all, in terms of what goes on here. And, I think, we'd be crazy, not to reach out and to one another and try to learn, and certainly more me than him. Like he's been there, done that. He's won a ton of championships and coached a lot of great players. His son being one of them, which is a unique experience, which I'd like to ask you about in a second. But I think it's been a great transition for me, and a lot of that is due to the fact that we have coaches like Coach Caringi and others here. Coach Stein as well, who's been here a number of years, has been a great resource for me. And obviously, Tim Hall, who leads us, on a daily basis. Right. But tell me, what's your affinity for Slurpees? Why do you like Slurpees?
It's just all coaches are superstitious. This year was the greatest. I mean, I stayed away. I didn't have a Slurpee all year. I did have a Slurpee before they went and played Virginia. I bought them all. I bought all the coaches.
That's
Slurpees
what I wanted you to get
awesome.
to.
And I really believe we were going to beat Virginia. I got it on tape somewhere, and they all had Slurpees, and actually texted down there and called down. I was in Houston. Everybody's talking about UMBC, and we got to get them a Slurpee for the next game. Absolutely, didn't get it, but just a little luck. I mean, Petey was drinking Slurpees the night before games, scoring goals. We won championships, and this year I stayed away from it from January 1st, and then I said, well, we're losing and winning, and I went and got one, and we went like on an 8 out of 9 run, got to the finals. So I've drank one every day, unfortunately. Right. My doctor's unhappy, but that's what it is.
Whatever it takes to win games.
Whatever it takes to win games.
I mean, we need a sponsorship, 7-Eleven.
So
there you go.
7-Eleven should sponsor us because, it's just a superstitious thing, and you start winning, and you're not going to change, that's for sure.
Right.
So what's it like, now you've coached your son, and now he's working for you. As a coach's son, what's that like?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, he's a great guy for the players to be around because he's a great influence. He's done it as a player. He's done it as a student athlete. He went and played professionally. Probably should still be playing, but he came back to get his degree because he understood. I've preached a long time to him about the importance of getting a degree rather than just playing professionally, and because eventually all those guys want to come back and get involved in coaching. So he does a great job. He was basically brought up here at UMBC. I mean, walking around the halls like you were with your dad.
Yeah.
And you know, I just think it's a great experience as a father to see him evolve both as a player and as a person and as a coach, and he handles himself really well. And you know, he doesn't. It's not our relationship. A lot of times is father-son when we're away from here, but a lot of times it's a coach, assistant coach when we're here and talking about the game. And that's what it was as a player and coach. I think when I coached him, we basically tried to get away at times just to talk about home, and because he lived here. But then other times it was basically you have to perform. And to go back to the first year where he was like one of our best players, and I didn't start him for like 5 games, and some of the best players came up to me and said,
"What are you doing, coach?
You
You're trying to lose?
You got to play him. You got to play him." And I was
That's
like, "Well,
great.
I didn't want to start him because he's got to play." And from that point on, he played.
Right. You know, if I could ask, and people who are maybe just becoming familiar with Coach, you won a national championship as a player back in the 1970s for the University of Baltimore. Dick Adele was your head coach, by the way, which I'm sure you know. I wonder, although you didn't win the national championship in 2014, you got awfully close, making it to the Final Four NCAAs. Was it comparable at all, the ride, from your maturity standpoint as a player, winning it, as opposed to a coach getting to that Final Four?
I think it was a lot different. As a player, we really expected. We had got to the Final Four my freshman year. They had got to the Final Four the year before. I was obsessed with winning a national championship as a player, and did everything I could to win it. And so I expected that. We went into the season, the Final Four team. We dreamt that the year before,
right?
And we worked hard for it. But to get there was each game became another part of the dream and the journey. So I would say, looking back on it, it was an unbelievable accomplishment, but you're not expecting it as much as a player. And as a player, you can go out and do something about it. You're on the sideline as a coach, and you know, the players at the
Did you guys talk, because you have similar experiences? You won a monumental game in the NCAA tournament, something that no one literally has ever done before. You made a run that no one thought could happen. Did you guys exchange feelings or stories on that?
Absolutely. After the fact, you know, we did. I mean, right in the midst of it, it was a little bit hard because, you know, we were getting ready for Kansas State, so I kind of had to turn my phone off. But we definitely have talked at length.
I think when you're going through it, you're welcoming all the people getting a hold of you, but you're really focused in on your team and making sure they're doing the little things, because you can really get caught off guard with everyone wanting to get involved. And he's done a phenomenal job here since the day he walked in, and I'm a big basketball fan, so I've watched through my 28 years, and he's done what he's done for the school is amazing, and he's going to continue to do it. That's for sure.
I think you're right.
I got one more question for you, and it's really a joke, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. So, how does it feel to be the second most famous, person in our athletic department now, to our Twitter guide, Zach Seidel?
That's a great. I know where you got that question from. I'm very impressed with Zach. And what I just heard is that Zach's doing a speech in New York.
Is he?
Next Wednesday, a 40-minute speech. So I was hoping me, you, and Nate could ride up and be part of
like razz him from the rafters.
And be part of the 10 people in attendance.
Coach, listen, we're going to give you a couple days off, okay? And then we want you right back at it for next year, okay?
Right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck,
All right,
guys.
Coach.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Coach Caringi, Coach Odom, we'll take a time out here. When we return, my broadcast partner, John Feinstein, will join us, and we'll wrap up the show with some college basketball talk on the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report. And welcome back to the show. Gary Stein, along with UMBC head men's basketball coach Ryan Odom, and now joined by John Feinstein, my color partner on the UMBC broadcast, New York Times best-selling author. John, how are you?
I'm well, Gary. Coach Odom, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us again, John.
Hey, John.
Always my pleasure. Although, Gary, I got to tell you,
Yes, sir.
before we start, that Friday I call Ryan to talk about the then upcoming American game, and he gets on the phone, and the first thing he says is, Duke goes down.
I wasn't happy about that, was I?
Old angry, old bitterness does not go away, even when you get old.
Yeah, they gave us some sleepless nights, when Dad was coaching at Wake.
Yeah, but your dad had a pretty nice run against him. He beat him 9 in a row at one point.
He did. He had a guy named
Did I
Tim
ever
Duncan.
tell you the story about Arnold
Certainly
Palmer?
helped.
What's that?
Did I ever tell you my Arnold Palmer story?
No, you did not.
First time I went to meet Arnold Palmer, 1994, I was working on A Good Walk Spoiled, and I went to his house in Orlando. And I had set up the interview through his longtime right-hand man, Doc Giffen. And Doc had said to me, can you come to Arnold's house on Sunday morning for breakfast?
Oh, boy, I know where this story's
I had
going.
made plans because the NCAA regionals were going on in St. Petersburg to drive over there and see Krzyzewski that morning because I needed an early column for the Washington Post. But when he said, can you come to Arnold's house in Orlando on Sunday morning, of course I said yes. So I called Krzyzewski and I said, I'm blowing you off for Arnold Palmer. And he made some nasty comment, as you would expect. And I went, and when we walked in, Doc Giffen said to Arnold, he said, John canceled breakfast with Mike Krzyzewski to be here. And Palmer looks at me and goes, Mike who? And I said, oh, he's the basketball coach at Duke. And he said, oh, Duke. That's the school whose butt we've been kicking every time we played in the last 4 years.
Pretty good.
Absolute setup.
John, while we're on the topic of books, your new book, Quarterback, which we talked a little bit about on the last broadcast, you were up in New York today on the morning show with Joe Scarborough and Mika. Tell us a little bit about that and what it was like.
Well, first of all, Joe and Mika weren't there. They're on their honeymoon.
They're on their honeymoon, that's true.
They're on their honeymoon. So I was with 4 other people, including Mike Barnacle and my old pal from Sports Reporters, Mike Lupica. It was kind of fun to be sitting on a television set with Mike again. And we did what they call a post-tape. So when the show was over at 9 a.m., I went in. We taped a long segment that should air tomorrow morning at 8:50 on Wednesday morning. We're talking here on Tuesday. So Wednesday morning, 8:50, the segment should air. And it was really good. They asked really smart questions. It was about a 10-minute segment, which, as you guys know, for television is really long.
Yeah.
They said nice things about the book. One of the great things about doing that show is that usually the people you're on with have read the book, and therefore they ask better questions. And so it was worth the trip. And I got to eat at John's Pizza last night, which is the best pizza in the entire world.
Oh, man. Where's that?
Well, there's 2 locations, Ryan. Not that I'm trying to get them to be a sponsor.
I love pizza in
The
New York.
original is on Bleecker Street because
Bleecker
the
Street.
restaurant's called John's at Bleecker Street.
Yeah.
But there's now one in the Theater District at 44th Street, right off of 8th Avenue, right next to Sardi's. So if you're ever in New York,
I know exactly where that is. Yeah.
you want to go there. It's the best pizza in the world. And I went with my old pal Jim Cantaloupe, who was the captain of the Army team I wrote about in a Civil War in 1995. So it was a good trip.
And what about your breakfast with Konchowski? Did you have that or no?
No, you know what, Ryan, a good friend of Tom's is apparently dying. Tom was telling me last night that they're taking him off life support today.
I'm sorry to
so
hear that.
Tom couldn't make breakfast, which was, I mean, it's unfortunate I didn't get to see him, and obviously for a very unfortunate reason. And people who aren't basketball people don't know Tom Konchowski, but he's the greatest and most honest basketball scout I think who ever lived. He is so old-fashioned. He does not have a computer, a cell phone, call waiting on his home phone. He travels only by bus or subway. He will fly to summer camps, but he's straight out of another era. And he was once referred to by a friend of mine. I was walking, Seth Davis from Sports Illustrated, and I were walking into a summer camp in Teaneck, New Jersey. I'm sure you were there, Ryan, at times.
Yeah.
At Fairleigh Dickinson.
ABCD.
And we saw Tom, and Seth said, "There's the only honest man in this gym."
Wow.
Oh, boy.
Well, sorry to hear
Good
about
description,
Tom's
isn't it?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Hey, John, the last game, UMBC and American, was really a great basketball game, 73-69. You've covered local DC basketball and Baltimore basketball, DMV basketball just in general. You know, we a lot of times just focus on Baltimore, but give us a little bit of the bigger picture, kind of like of Mid-Atlantic basketball, American, GW, Georgetown, etc. What kind of competition, what kind of play is going on in this area right now?
Well, as we saw on Saturday, I think American is a vastly improved team from the last couple of years. Getting back their center, Mark Gasparini, who missed all of last year, is a big deal. They've got a couple of other guys who played limited minutes who are now stepping into bigger roles. But I thought, Ryan, tell me what you think. I agree, Gary. I thought it was a very good basketball game. But I thought the difference in the end was a junior point guard who has started 67 games being able to kind of take control of the game, Saeed Nelson, who's not the Patriot League preseason player of the year for nothing. And he's improved his game since last year. His defense is better. He hit 3 threes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he hit 3 threes all of last year.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the difference in the game was the experience at the point guard position.
Yeah, he had an excellent second half. He didn't play as well in the first, and I thought our guys,
trouble, right?
had a lot to do with that. We were playing him a specific way, and trying to not bait him into shooting threes, but try to limit his opportunities getting to the basket. And I think we did that. And then in the second half, as all good players will do, they're not just going to play one half and mail it in. He answered, and American answered even when they got down 10. And, I was impressed with their team, not only in that particular game, but in watching, the 3 previous that they've played so far. They're going to have a great season, and I'm excited for Mike and his program.
Yeah, they're picked 7th in the Patriot League, and I think I said to you during the broadcast, Gary, they're not going to finish 7th in the Patriot League. They're better than that. And I think they can finish in the top 3 in the league. I mean, that league still goes through Bucknell the way the America East, still goes through Vermont in many ways. But I think American can play with anybody in that league because Bucknell is not as good as its last couple of teams because they graduated some key seniors. So I think the top of that league's wide open. And in answer to your question, Gary, I think the biggest difference between Baltimore and Washington is the Baltimore teams will play each other. There's no, Maryland and Georgetown who won't play each other. More specifically, Georgetown won't play Maryland. Georgetown won't play George Washington. I think local rivalries are the best rivalries in sports. I mean, look at the Big Five in Philly and how great that is and how great it's been for so many years. But the coaches in the D.C. area have just, not Baltimore, D.C., have just refused to ever come together and say, look, it's best for our programs, it's best for the city. For years, I was involved in a charity tournament in Washington, the BB&T Classic, which has now sadly gone away. Gary Williams played in it every year and made it a success by playing good national teams. Georgetown wouldn't play. And then Mark Turgeon decided he didn't want to do it anymore. Then Georgetown came in and played second-level teams only. And the tournament died. And it was a great fundraiser for kids at risk in the Washington area. And sadly, the coaches in the area just didn't care enough to keep it alive.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Not that I'm bitter or anything.
Yeah. No, we actually played in that when I was at Virginia Tech. Seth came up and played. I think we played GW one year in it.
And who did you guys play? I'm trying to remember. Did you play GW? You played GW.
Yeah, we played GW one year, and I think we played Towson maybe another year. I can't. No, Georgetown played Towson. That's who it was.
Georgetown played Towson, right? But the year you guys played, and 'cause Seth is one of my favorite people, but he's like all coaches. He's insane. And he came in and he was convinced that we were trying to fix the game for GW to win. So before the game starts, I'm doing the game on television, and all of a sudden, our tournament director, Bob Zerflu, comes over and he says, John, you got to talk to Coach Greenberg. He's losing his mind. And so I went over and I said, Seth, what's wrong? And he said, you put us right in front of the GW band. You know, you put us right there, right in front of the GW band. That's not, we're supposed to have the choice of benches. So I went over to Zerflu and I said, Bob, why are they in front of the GW band? He said, they're not. They're on the other bench.
He said, oh, okay.
Seth, I solved the problem.
Hey, John, we actually had another couple topics to get to, but I think we're going to have to carry that over till next time.
Well, it'll give us something to look forward to.
Absolutely. John, thank you so much.
All right, guys. I'll see you all on December 11th. That'll be a heck of a game against
Yeah,
South.
that is true. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, have a good road trip, Ryan.
All right, thanks, John. Take care.
See you guys.
All right, that is John Feinstein. I'm a color partner on the UMBC broadcast coach. I think that's the final word for today.
That's it.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Another good episode here. So looking forward to next week.
Absolutely, and good luck up in Northern Kentucky, and we'll see you back here for a nice little homestand.
Thank you.
That'll do it for today's show. We'll see you next time right here on the UMBC Ryan Odom Basketball Report.